Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. See. There we go.
Hey,
We're all here. Hi, Sally.
how are you?
Good.
We got a puppy. It was hard to leave.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Everybody ready? For those who would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please go ahead. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
To the flag
United
of
States
the
of
United
America
States of America
and
and to the republic for which it
which
stands,
stands one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible.
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Right, it felt like there was an echo with the. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is November 8th and the time is 7:04 p.m. and this is the regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees. And I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
here.
Harper,
Here.
Trustee Wiegert,
Here.
Trustee Bierma,
Here.
Trustee George,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney, here, Mayor Furman.
Here. Right, do we have any staff or board revisions to tonight's agenda?
I do have 2 revisions. Our presentation that we had posted will be postponed until the next meeting. Deanne needs some more time with getting some numbers for her presentation. And then I would also like to add the consideration to approve an MOU with Chaffa and their consultant for the build out of anvil plans and rendering. So this would be new business 4F. Not included in the packet because I didn't receive the MOU until Saturday, the updated one.
Thank you. Any trustee objections to those additions?
No.
Great. Any other trustee additions to the agenda or revisions? Great. All right. At this time, we'll open up the meeting for public comment. We'll start with anyone in person, and then we'll move to our Zoom attendees. We do not have any in-person comments, so we'll move to Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please click the raise hand button and we will promote you to panelists. Please introduce yourself and you'll be given 3 minutes to tell us whatever is on your mind.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
We can.
I want to let you know I really appreciate the steps you're taking to make traffic safer, especially around the school. I read John's report and I wanted to ask you to do 2 more intersections. As you know, I'm a frequent pedestrian, and so when you get to 14th and Reese and 13th and Reese, people tend to park blocking the sidewalks in the summer, which forces all the pedestrians into the intersection to get around. And frankly, we do little to promote anybody moving to the sidewalks in the summer because they have obstacles, and there's a vehicle with a flat tire in one right now, and people put personal items there and stuff. So it would help if you did do something and ask folks to not leave stuff on their sidewalk, but please consider those 2 intersections as well. I've never noticed anything farther south on Reese Street, so someone else would have to speak to that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I do not see any other public comment at this time. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and move along to new business, item 4A, consideration to renew the Durango Dog Ranch contract.
So this contract is for the Durango Dog Ranch to operate dog sled tours at Mullis Lake. The contract has been updated with the latest signature page in your packet and is valid until 2023.
Any trustee questions or comments related to the contract? Oh. Do I hear a motion to approve the Durango Dog Ranch contract?
Yeah, I can make a motion to renew the Durango Dog Ranch contract.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Tyler beat you out on this one.
Got the next one.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Varela,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Beerma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Great. Moving on to our next item, 4B, consideration to approve mistletoe market fee waiver request.
And I just wanted to let you know that the letter in your packet was from 2019, so I've sent you all the updated letter this morning. And I have purposely placed this request before our fee waiver policy because it was submitted before the policy was even considered. So I ask that you consider this without the context of our new policy or our draft policy. And we have Lisa and Carol here to harness any questions.
Good evening, Carol and Lisa. Trustees, any questions for Carol or Lisa?
No, it's just, I read the packet and it's a renaming of the hall club.
I see you, Molly. I'll get to you in just a second. Go ahead, Tyler.
And yeah, it looks straightforward. It looks good. I'm in total support of this. It's a pretty big get together every Christmas, and I don't remember, I certainly wasn't there last year, and I don't know if it happened last year, but it would be nice to see it back if we can mitigate the COVID, the distancing, which it looks like they have a plan for that in there. But, so yeah.
Great, thank you.
I can speak to that. This event had happened for probably close to 8 years prior to the Silverton Creative District taking it on in 2019. We did not host it last year because of COVID. We are hoping to be able to do so this year, but of course are moving forward cautiously.
Thank you, Lisa. Molly, you're up.
Okay, so I have a couple of issues, not with the fact that the market is going back on and it's been all folded into one called the Mistletoe Market, because we used to have the market that Terry Metzler would organize downtown, plus the Hofla, so it looks like everything has been fused together into one. What I do have a problem with is the waiving of the vendors' fees. The reason that they are in place for all events is so we are not collecting taxes as a municipality, and neither are the individuals who are selling. So those vendor fees are in lieu of taxes. So I do have a big issue with not having every single individual that goes to the craft fair when these happen, having vendor fees. That's what they're there for, and that's why they were designed. Secondly, we just also gave the Creative District $10,000. So I'm wondering what the additional fee waiver is for. They are a nonprofit, so that means they are allowed to use Kendall Mountain facility because they're a registered 81433. That's been on the books for quite some time, and it's done in the off season. So we also had asked for anybody who wanted to start going under nonprofits and asking what their acts were for the entire year. And this wasn't included when the paperwork was to be turned in to Gloria last month when you put yourselves out there for the 10 grand. So I'm just curious why this is so far lagging, why we're trying to get rid of vendors fees, which is the only way that the town basically makes money because we don't collect taxes. And why would you need to have this waived anyway when you're an 81433 nonprofit and you get 2 days to use Kendall for free in the off season?
So I can clarify that. The way this event has been structured in the past is the Silverton Creative District is a 501c3. We do not need to pay for usage of Kendall for this event because it's off season at Kendall. What we have asked the trustees to do in the past, not for the creative district's benefit, but for the benefit of the people who are vending at this event, is that their fees that they would pay to the town for a special event vending permit would be waived. And the reason that was something that was requested in the past was just to make it easier for people to participate. I will refer back to probably 2019, 2018 or beyond when Carrie Metzler was doing her bazaar. She also requested the same thing. We often submitted a joint letter to that effect. It's my understanding that Carrie is not hosting her event this year. So the Creative District is the only organization that will be offering a Christmas bazaar. It doesn't impact the Creative District at all, except perhaps that some vendors may choose not to participate if they have to pay that permit fee. We are limiting the number of vendors that we can have at this event this year. We're looking at probably only 15 because we're wanting to space people out. So that may just cull the herd and not be a problem at all, but it's really a courtesy for the vendors. The Creative District doesn't get impacted one way or another by that fee waiver. And in addition to that, I would say that we the Creative District are waiving booth fees for vendors, again, to make it easier for people to participate, especially coming out of COVID, coming out of a year when maybe they haven't been able to participate in very many events. And San Juan Development Association has actually contributed some money to the Creative District for the purposes of putting this event on or other community gatherings that's making it possible for us to absorb the booth fees we would typically charge to vendors. So hopefully that clarifies. And again, this is following the same format the event has followed for years prior.
Technically, this is a different and new event then. So, because Carrie Metzler ran it Carrie Metzler ran the Christmas Bazaar downtown. And
correct, but Carrie's been operating her event for years separately from the Creative Districts. We're not folding them together. This is the Creative District's event, and Carrie has always operated separately. We have jointly requested that waiver because we're both usually working in that same territory over the same weekend every year. So thus the joint request in years past.
Okay. Any further clarification requested about those issues or others?
I thought the application looked really thorough and I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, I think it looks good as well. I'm totally fine with not having the vendor fees. I think it's a one-time event. It brings more people when we don't have the vendor fees. Most of these people are selling stuff that's their hobby and they're not making a ton themselves. It's just a nice community event.
Any other discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the mistletoe market fee waiver request.
I can second this one, can I?
I think Jim got that one.
Got me.
Hey, there you go.
All right. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Bearma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Lisa and Carol, thank you very, very much.
Can I make one point of clarification before we move on? I just want to make sure we're actually getting the special event application also approved. I think how it's on the agenda is not reflective of the whole application, just of the fee waiver request.
Would anyone like to adjust their vote with that revision, or are we?
would you like to see?
In short,
You know, Lisa, when I said yes, that my understanding was that we were approving the vendor permit fee waiver as well as the special events application in one.
do we want to redo the roll call with a more specific motion, or do we want to just ratify that each of us voted yes to approve both waiver requests? Could we do like a quick informal roll call?
Sure. Okay. Trustee Barella?
I'd like to clarify that it says Mistletoe Market and it's all in one. It encompasses everything. It was a full packet. So I'm not sure why the necessary need for the secondary roll call or the additional questions.
Just to be an overabundance of clarity. But if you think that it's perfectly clear, then I'm okay with that as well.
I think it's perfectly clear because that's what our packet says.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business, item 4C, consideration to provide Kendall passes for Silverton schools.
So Kendall season passes are now on sale. Just going to throw that plug in there. And to kickstart our sale, Todd has prepared the request for school children to receive season passes from the town. In the memo, it states that this has been done in years past. Todd is on vacation right now, but I can try and answer those questions if needed.
This is something we've done for as long as I've been here. I think it's awesome. I think it really is good of the town to support the kids in this respect.
And this is a pass for any time. It's not just for the teaching
Right.
classes on Friday, right? Yeah,
Right.
I'm all for this. I think
And
it's
just,
huge.
I think Todd's memo is a really nice, it's a good summary of how this has worked in the past and it's still true. And just as a note on this, because I have worked obviously with Kendall and kids skiing at Kendall and this pass process, you know, it says this equates to a donation of approximately $7,980 because it's a simple math problem of $95 per kid times 84 students. I think that's the value of that donation. I think if we didn't offer these passes as a support for the local community, we wouldn't necessarily see that income at all. So we would have a lot of families who just don't get to ski over there. And so I do see that as a huge value to the community, but I don't see it completely as a, I think, yeah, we wouldn't have that income.
Yeah, we don't lose the revenue.
Right.
Allow, yeah.
I'll keep it going. I'll make a motion that we approve the provision for Kendall passes for Silverton school students.
And could I this time clarify also, based on the staff recommendation, to be inclusive of homeschooled children following appropriate education credentials being presented?
Yeah, as stated in the memo.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
An emphatic yes.
Trustee Wiegert?
Yes.
Trustee Bierma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
I need to not vote on this one. It just occurred to me. I have two kids
Okay. Fair enough.
receiving passes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. All right, moving on to new business for D, consideration to approve the requested $10,000 for Silverton ski touring.
So they are contracted Silverton Ski Touring is a contracted service, as we were kind of reviewing over our work session. And they are requesting additional funds for operations. John Oakes is with us to harness any questions.
Hi, John, welcome.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Kim.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh, my.
1 second, everyone, if you can hear us, we're just having a quick technical difficulty. Perhaps, quick.
Can anyone still hear us? Just say yes or no.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We're just having a technical glitch real quick. Should be fixed momentarily. I really thought I had it this time.
thought we were going to do it.
Away. Give us 1 minute there.
1 minute?
Huh?
There we are, and we're back.
I was gonna say, make promises that you can't keep, but.
Okay. All right, hi, John, we can see you and hear you.
Hello.
Great, so we see the request for this year. I think it might be helpful for you to provide a little bit of context around how the film production is doing and the request for the additional $5,000 to come to a total of 10,000.
Absolutely. Thank you, trustees. The Silverton Ski Touring event has a hard dollar budget of about $35,000 to execute. And that's in addition to an overwhelming support of in-kind donation from area businesses, as well as individuals volunteering in various positions. And of the $35,000 that we have budgeted to produce the event, we've, including the $5,000 that's committed from the town, we've just over the $20,000 mark. So we're about $15,000 short of our fundraising goal. And the request for the additional $5,000 would make it a lot more obtainable for us to be able to seek the additional fundraising that's needed if it's possible to make such request. And then maybe I'll pause there and then talk about the documentary separately.
Sure. All right, trustees, any questions so far? Or discussion or comment?
Yeah,
I would just like to say, I think I had it wrong in the agenda. I said 10,000 there. That's what we contract with them. They're asking for 5,000 here. Sorry.
Yeah,
Just a
we-
point of clarification.
Contracted for 5 and the request is for 10 for an additional 5.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right, sorry, my
Yeah,
confusion. I
you
thought
said
I
it
messed
right
up.
The first time.
Tyler, did you?
yeah, so I have a question. If we give you an extra $5,000 and that brings you to, you said you need like 35,000 and this will bring you to 25. If you don't get the extra or that difference of $10,000, will you not be able to have the event?
We're committed with the forecasting, the fundraising forecast. We feel reasonable to obtain the additional $10,000. It seems like the 15, might be a little bit of a stretch. There's a few tentative commitments that we have from other businesses in Durango and beyond that we feel comfortable, that coupled with some of the on-site sales and income, that we'd be able to reach the total of $30,000, and the extra $5,000 puts us into a pretty confident position moving forward.
Molly?
I want to know where the movie is. I want to know what's happening with that. Where is it? Why isn't it been released? I know that it went way over budget is what I was told, and that it's not in your possession. Can you please clarify?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Molly. The documentary, as far as I'm aware, isn't over budget. We've got a really great edited piece that I can share via email. we would like to film this upcoming event. As you all know, when we filmed the production last year, there was no crowd or participation from an audience perspective. And we feel like the documentary is absolutely fantastic in its current state, but it's just lacking some of the heart and energy that the live event has. And since we don't have any, other than some hodgepodge together like archive footage, we don't have any great video footage to complement the fantastic interviews and content that we have for the documentary as it sits today.
So where is the existing content?
I can email a version of currently as it sits, the current edit. And the best way I would describe it, it looks more like a winter Silverton documentary as opposed to a Silverton ski joring documentary. And so our ambition is to continue the production with filming this year to just have more of the kind of the heart and soul of ski joring added into the fantastic footage that we've already captured.
So how much money currently does ski joring have in its bank account? Because the budget seems to be that you've got a lot pending with no, if you just got a budget in there, you don't actually show what you've raised already, because nobody's knocked on my door once again. And we're already going into the middle of November.
Got it. And so Molly, the question is specifically the budget or where the allocation of money has come from that we have to date?
How much currently do you have? How much currently have you raised? I can look at a budget and say, okay, great. But if none of this exists and you don't have it already, you know, how far behind the 8 ball is ski joring right now?
We've got committed $10,000 from the tourism board. The $5,000 from the town of Silverton, $1,000 from the Coffee Bear, $100 from Dave Romero's shop, $300 from the Hummingbird shop, $200 from Casey and Traders, Gigi and Bruce, $200. And then we're pending a contribution from a handful of other local area businesses and from down in Durango and beyond. That get us to that, you know, plus or minus $20,000 fundraising mark to where we're at to date.
So how is the organization of the board right now? Because I understand that Karen, after she turned in this letter, also resigned.
That is correct, yes. So the board members, we had a kind of a reorganization meeting last week, and the remaining board members are stepping up to fill the role that Karen was filling to continue pushing forward with the event.
And who are those members?
The handsome man, Jim Harper, who is represented here, myself, Melanie Barger, and Todd, that you guys know from the city and town, or from the town employees.
And how many volunteers have already been rounded up to help with this project?
Quite a few. I don't have a specific number, tallied, but a lot of the reoccurring faces that have participated in the past for the various street closures, other businesses. But again, I don't have a definitive number in front of me.
Yeah, so Molly, are you finished for now?
For the time being.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant to approve an extra $5,000. My first vote when I sat on this board was for the $5,000 for the documentary, and it was my understanding that I was voting to give Ski Joring that money so that they could build the documentary, so that they could then release it and drum up more interest so more people attended this year after COVID. And so I'm just a little concerned that now it's not going to be released until after this year's, and that's not really what I was led to believe in the previous meeting. So, you know, we spent the money, and the town gave a lot of their resources to make sure they could shut the streets down and make sure that we could get it filmed. But, you know, we still don't have any content, and certainly no content that's, you know, out in the world sort of marketing and this year's event.
Sally?
Yeah, I had a question kind of to follow up with Tyler's about the documentary as it stands now. Are there any plans, or would it be possible to release some version of that to, you know, at least leverage what has been done so far to drum up some excitement and enthusiasm for the event this year, in the spirit of what Tyler's talking about? And I think kind of what we potentially all sort of believed was the purpose of that documentary, without, I know there's some kind of, you know, without spoiling the punchline or, you know, taking away from the overall value of that. But I do think, you know, in thinking about asking for more money or trying to get more money, we would want to try and think about, you know, what's the benefit to the town, and are we going to see more attendees or more visitors? I mean, this event is a great event, and it brings so many people to our community in the winter, and it brings locals out in the winter, and it is a really valuable, you know, touchstone community event of the winter. And I certainly want to see it happen. So, you know, not approving funds at the detriment of like the entire event, I think is, you know, if we're in that phase, if we're in that dramatic of a position, I think it would be great to just know that, you know, if you'd be willing to just step up and say, yeah, this event's not happening, or, you know, give us like a really clear indicator or read on what we're looking at. But I do think that video, the film was sort of intended to make this year's event a real blockbuster for the community. I think that was my, you know, that was sort of my take on it when we were discussing that last year.
Is it okay if I respond?
Sure.
Okay. It absolutely, like the utilization of the footage. We have what I'll consider a releasable product right now. It's edited, you know, through and through. Jim just recently, you know, got a chance to preview it, and it's fantastic. It's just, it's lacking, you know, just, you know, kind of the through line of Silverton ski joring. Like, it's there, but we just don't have the energy and the action from the event. And so 100% we'll be able to utilize the footage that we have captured to promote and market the event this year. And the, you know, so I have no problem sharing that with the board for like a preview. Check it out, and, you know, we can go from there. But there's, you know, to answer your, you know, immediate question, we can absolutely leverage the work that we did last year. It just seems like something that's going to live on, you know, reasonably in perpetuity. It could be, it's great now, and it could be better, and it could be a little bit more substantial, you know, for the future if we were to film this year.
How long is the current edit?
It's about an hour.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is there like a trailer that's been edited as well?
There is. The trailer kind of comes last in the production process. Like, we got to the point of going through all the different interviews and organizing the footage into the current form of the edit, and then have what I'll call a very rough cut of the trailer. But we didn't want to deploy the additional labor resources into editing it until it was finished, right? And we feel like, you know, from a production standpoint, we want to film an additional season of the actual event with a crowd to finish it.
I have one more question. I'd like to kick it over to Jim. Is the additional filming you have in mind included in this current budget?
It would be included in the budget. That's correct.
Thank you. Hey, Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to jump in really quick and say that I've watched the video. I've watched, and it's absolutely remarkable. It's incredible. It views as a winter wonderland for Silverton with excerpts of the event, because there's not a lot of live action of the event other than what they filmed there during those days without the crowds. But really what it is, it's a showcase for the town of Silverton, for skiing, of the people themselves. It's all about our community. It's a beautiful video. I think everyone should just see the rough cut before it's even edited down from the 60-minute version, because it really does showcase the individuals of our community. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So John, say you were able to get the money and get the extra footage this year, when do you think you'd have the releasable product ready to go out there?
Great question. And it really comes down to the editing time. We think, taking some of the highlight reel footage from this year's event would just add that ski joring, flavor to it. The editor, he has a full-time job, and so I can't definitively answer the question, but it wouldn't be, months later. Like, we would be able to take the current edit. Most of the work is already done, right? The hard work is already done. Adding the action and crowds and some of those things that we're missing, would be relatively easy compared to the hard work that's already done. And then, I think it comes down to scheduling. The original ambition behind the documentary was to have this legacy, I'll call it like evergreen piece that Silverton and Silverton ski joring can point to, for years down the road to promote the town as well as the event. And so timing that, like when do we release it? It would be awesome. We talked to the Allen Theater Group, down in Durango about hosting a premiere event in Durango, working at the Grand Imperial in the theater downstairs to have, so there's some fundraising initiatives and things as we move forward in the future that we can leverage, the documentary to raise money and raise excitement. And, to that point, I think we would get it finished, reasonably 2 to 3 months after the event, have the edit finished before summer, and then be able to place it, whether it's with Netflix or Discovery. It is so beautiful the way that it's produced. Like, it absolutely could be, a Netflix release or seen on a major network as a TV special. And we, from a fundraising standpoint for Silverton Ski Joring, want to be able to try to sell it and generate money, short term and long term, with the release of the documentary.
Molly?
So is the town of Silverton going to have ownership of part of this as well, since it's a considerable amount of funds from the people and the public that have been donated for ownership of this video? Or is it just going to be strictly Silverton ski joring? Because that kind of worries me as well. Since it's been publicly funded, that the town, we were kind of offered a golden plate before when you guys were asking for the money to do the documentary. But we've got, we're coming up on this and we've got no footage, we've got no nothing. So I'm really worried about where the content is, who owns it, and how it would be utilized if it's something that will be in perpetuity forever.
Yeah, Molly, it's a great question. I don't, at the moment, I'm not an expert with intellectual property ownership, right? But and I don't know if there's statutes or anything that the town needs to consider. So I would maybe, there's absolutely consideration if there's revenue generated from the sale of the documentary. Where does that revenue go? The original ambition and I guess current intention is for it to be able to wean itself off of, revenue from the town and the fundraising. We want to be able to build the event to where it's self-sustaining, financially from various, sales and revenue and things like that. So, it sounds like there's a question, should the town have, an equitable stake, similar to how an executive producer would with any major film, right? Is there some sort of, royalty or payment or repayment from the sale of the documentary that the town should consider. And I don't know enough low-level details if that's legal or not, or how it would be structured with the town.
Well, that isn't completely off of what I was actually asking. I was asking about the ownership of it, not film credits and not about fundraising use and ability. It's whether or not the town of Silverton would have any sort of stake and or right to republish and reproduce on behalf of the town. Since right now, basically, we were told it looks more like a winter wonderland video of Silverton without the ski touring footage. So would the town be able to use that as a marketing tool as well, since it was partially funded with public dollars?
I'd have to review the release forms and all the documents. It doesn't seem like there would be a problem not to, right? The town should be able to, if we wanted to pay in another editor to edit the footage that we have into, tourism footage or any other content, there should be no reason why we don't have the rights to do that. Like from Silverton Ski Touring to offer that to the town.
Okay, so I don't want to ever lose ski touring. I think what Pete Meisel and Gwen built all these years has been a very wonderful thing. It is considered the 4th of July of the winter. I do have a bit of a problem because this board has fallen apart. You've got very few members left originally. So if we do vote this way, I would like to see some sort of, I don't know, Gloria, maybe you can help me think of a way to term this in the contract, or the town attorney, some sort of a financial oversight and some rights to be able to reuse footage that was made on the town's dime.
So I'm feeling pretty conflicted. I remember when we approved the film funding, and we were a little on the fence about that too. And I think we received a decent amount of assurance that we would have a product now-ish to be able to promote this year. I know nothing about filmmaking, so I didn't realize that it makes sense as you explained it, but to make the trailer afterwards. But if we had a trailer now, like a 1 or 2 minute piece that could be distributed significantly, that could serve as a great marketing piece going into this year, maybe even more digestible than the hour-long piece that's maybe done very, very well and highlights all of Silverton and the winter in Silverton. But since we don't have that, I'm not sure that we can necessarily, or I would feel good about adding more money to the pot without having received a product. And it sounds like ski touring's a little bit behind on funding, that this year sounds a little uncertain. So I think I'm fine keeping the original 5,000 funded that we've contracted for, but I would want to see some big marketing push by ski touring with possibly some, trailer version of the content before we contribute another 5,000.
Maybe I'd like to maybe propose emailing all the trustees the current version of the documentary so you can see it, and maybe table the request for the additional $5,000 until the next meeting. And we can, in that time, move some other things forward.
I think that's fair. I mean, I'm acting under the assumption that that's a phenomenal piece of filmmaking. I still think I would be hesitant to add the other 5,000 since we didn't get the thing that we thought we were paying for to promote this year. And that's the issue I have. I think this thing will be great once it comes out. It'll probably serve an even larger purpose than we originally intended. It's probably even better than what we thought we were getting.
Return on investment is significant, right? I say that with confidence because, again, I've seen the content. It's unbelievable what our team and the volunteers and everybody contributed to the current state of the documentary. And I really think it's important for everyone to see that in its current state, and also see the success, of the event this year and for years, continuing for years to come.
Yeah, to add to that, I think, I agree. Operating under the assumption that it's totally fantastic. It's going to represent our community in this big way. I can see a real long-term payoff for the community in having a product like this that gets circulated widely. I just think for this year, I wonder, you know, even if it was released as an hour-long like feature film, that has such a different relationship with marketing than, you know, like a 2-minute come up to Silverton, it's President's Day weekend, it's going to be awesome, you know? And so I think like if from the short-term perspective, what I'm looking for is like, how can we make sure that we get the return on the investment? Because, you know, this is one of our bigger requests in the budget. So how do we get the return on the investment this year? I totally accept the idea that a really awesome feature-length film that's put out on Netflix or whatever has a really long-term potential to benefit the town. And so I'm not trying to discount that. I just think that when we look at the request in the framework and the context of the rest of the budget and the, you know, that it's a significant event for us in the winter, for sure. But it is just, you know, it is also it's one weekend of our winter. And I think when I think about investing in the community, it's just a balance of, you know, the investments that we put into something that's the one weekend of the year versus something that kind of constantly gives back to the community or constantly gives back to the visitor experience here. And so that's where I think when we get into that additional $5,000 request for me, I feel a little hesitant about, and I accept your idea to, you know, maybe push back and see the video, but I think even if I see the hour-long footage, I'm going to be blown away. It's going to be awesome, but it's still going to be this hour-long thing. And do we have a way to leverage that footage for this year to get people back in the groove of coming to Silverton and making a winter drive here and, you know, making this year's event really awesome so that it sinks its teeth into the community just with a better hold than where we are now with just the makeup of the fundraising and the issues with pulling it off. It's challenging. It's a huge, significant event. So I'm just a little hesitant still.
And I think regardless, one way or the other, we'll absolutely utilize the footage that we have to create some, you know, 60-second, 2-minute long, you know, hype videos, attendance videos, things like that. That will happen, you know, regardless.
Jordan?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with a lot of things that people have brought up. It kind of puts us in a rock and a hard place just of having an unfinished product, because I think you're absolutely right that getting footage from this year will help tie it all together. And I don't want the lack of funding to not let it happen this year and then not have a finished product and not have an awesome event.
The biggest problem with the documentary is we made it too good, so we need to continue making it as good as it is, and that'll make it. Like we don't want any of the old footage because it wouldn't matter. Like it's such a high quality at which we've been able to film it.
And
John?
I don't think Jordan was finished, but then Jim, you could jump right in.
Yeah.
I apologize. Sorry.
Where was I going now? No, I completely agree that the more high quality the product, the more we'll get out of it as well. And I'm still on the fence about this, but I'm almost thinking of it as it's almost like a forward payment of Ski Joring 2023 with the goal of like, you're weaning yourself off the town funding with, you know, hopefully once this is released, you know, next year, the year after that, you're not requesting, you know, hardly anything from the town potentially, because this awesome documentary has helped drum up a lot of interest in ski joring. I definitely share those same questions that Molly had too about the town utilization of the video and ownership, just with our funding going into it. So I think at least right now, I would feel most comfortable probably tabling it for the moment. I don't know if there's a specific deadline that you need to have funding by, but.
Thanks. Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to add to what Jordan just stated. I'd like to table this for another 2 weeks until our next meeting. I'd like to give everyone the chance to see the video. The entire video was filmed in 4K for the purpose of bringing it to cable outlets, Netflix, what have you. And a lot of the old footage, it's grainy. It doesn't go along with it. But I really believe if everyone sees the product and gives it 5 minutes, gives it 10 minutes, you'll understand what the video is about, and you'll understand what filmmakers are trying to put together there.
Okay. I'd like to also kind of encourage, I think what would be really nice to hear is that this thing has momentum and support in the community. I'd like to see, a bigger effort to fundraise. I'd like to see outreach or, marketing to add to your board and other people, so that we could, see a more robust, excited, movement within the community that we would be part of supporting with this request. I don't know which order Jim and Molly put their hands up, but you both are welcome to talk whenever.
Let Jim speak first.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think those are great points. And I would love to discuss that at a further date as well.
Great. Molly?
So I don't think the intent from the ski joring group was ever to not produce a product. But what the bill of sale was when this was being asked for last year is not what is happening now. And that is the biggest hang up for all of this. And what kind of event is taking place? Why has nobody been around the community? What designation, who does what on your board? Because when I was on the board, there were quite a bit more participants, and the town of Silverton will always be involved because it's on town streets, and the in-kind donation that the town does with the delivering of the snow so they can build the the berms and the jumps and everything. So it's a symbiotic relationship, but we need to see who's invested now. Where is the board at? Who's on the board? How many more people? I mean, it's no different than the 4th of July. Nobody, after our lovely plea, nobody's come forward and said, hey, guess what? We want to help with this so this event goes further. So this is what's been happening to most events in Silverton. The intent is always there. I don't want to see these events go away, but when you're dealing with public dollars, that's why I said if there's no event, there shouldn't be any money given because it's public funds. So I'm fine with tabling this. I think a lot of valid points were talked about this evening that needed to be discussed in an open forum. And thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like we're all good with tabling. I think we all want to be excited to support this. So let's see where we are in 2 weeks.
Perfect. I will, before my time's up, I'm going to send everybody an email this evening. It'll be in your inbox shortly. And the one disclaimer that I'll give verbally, but it'll also be written, the first 3 or 4 minutes of the video is the rough cut of the trailer. It's continuous to an entire section of a song. And I'll call it out in the email, but there's a pretty obvious start point to where the title sequence would begin. So just know the first 2 or 3 minutes is the unfinished, and then it gets significantly better when the title sequence and opening shots start. But that'll be called out in the email that'll be in your inbox shortly.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Any other clarification or question before we move on to the next?
I'm going to be putting it on the November 22nd agenda and make sure that you all receive email with the link.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Thank you, John. Have a great rest of the night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. So we will move on to new business item 4E, consideration to approve fee waiver reduction policy.
So you have in your packet a draft of a fee waiver policy. In doing the research for this, I contacted several other municipalities through our listserv, and they generously gave me their current fee waivers. It ranged from no fee waivers at all to kind of a version of what you see before you. I would say there is a typo. My computer didn't save it. It should be that if fees are over $2,000, it goes to the board, because typically our fees are around $1,000. So in looking at previous year's fees that were waived, it appeared that they're around $20,000 to $15,000 that had been raised with facilities. And so this would just focus on special events and facilities. And so in your packet too, you'll see that there's the Gunfighter Association, kind of skews the bottom line of the fee request, since our fee schedule states that the road closure is like $500 for 4 hours. But was given the context earlier that originally had said film, just for filming. And that was taken out in the fee schedule. And so this is kind of what I was going off of, was the fee schedule to do this. So we've eliminated the waiver for banner fees, because this takes a lot of time for our staff to put up. But actually talking to Willie Tukey today, he said maybe we could have them or us apply to the tourism board, since technically that would be like a marketing thing. So we could possibly, kind of cover costs that way. And like, this isn't to say that we're not ever going to waive fees. This gives us some parameters. I mean, many of these events service the community, and the fees waived are a wonderful way for the town to support the event. But this program definitely needs more structure and parameters.
Well, I'm excited that that you spent the time to put this together. It's super helpful and awesome. And the thing that I took away that was most helpful is that the purpose of the fees, for us to really be thinking about the fee waiver component, is to cover, excuse me, guys. Gary? Okay. It's to cover the town's cost for each of the requests. It's not a revenue generator. And so as we're thinking about what we're waiving fees for, I think where there's places that we incur less cost or the fee isn't directly related to the cost, it's easier to consider the waiver. And I think this makes that very clear. So thank you.
Yeah, my only question was very comprehensive, really, I liked it. I think it hopefully, well, not hopefully, I think it will help us make a decision and help other folks. Under definitions, you put not-for-profit organizations and then shall mean, et cetera, et cetera. Should we just put the definition of a not-for-profit, they have a 501c3 or C4 status? That way we don't have to, we don't have to look into it and see if are they a nonprofit? Are they an actual nonprofit? If they have a certificate of nonprofit status from the state, then.
Yeah, I would say I kind of kept that definition in there because there are some organizations that aren't technically a 501c3, but they act under a fiscal sponsor. So I wanted to include those organizations in case they came up. I know that there's a couple, and I'm trying to think of a concrete example right now, but I can't.
The ski team's one.
The ski team is one? Okay. That they don't have their own 501c3 status, but they still serve the community, but they operate under another fiscal sponsor. That would be a way we could still ask for that fiscal sponsor's 501 if we wanted to, but I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit more broad to allow for those organizations that haven't got their status there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Based on Tyler's question, do you think there is additional clarification needed in the definition, or do you think it still works as is?
Let me reread it.
Or there can be an and in there somewhere, and or, operates with a 501c3 or shall mean. I mean, if you operate as a 501c3, you check, don't go any farther.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you keep reading and you see if you fall into the rest of the definition, maybe.
Okay.
So you can get a nonprofit status through the state of Colorado, and you don't have to be a 501c3, nor do you have to have an alternative organization above you. That is a status that is available through the Secretary of State's office. So just to be aware, maybe it should just say state or federal rather than anything else, because there are several definitions of nonprofits and how they operate.
Thank you for that clarification.
So I'd like to ask one more question. Are you going to put the words public right-of-way street closure for filming back into this, since that was what it was originally intended for? Or is it going to stay the way it is? Because we do have a lot of skewed, just like you said with the gunfighters, there's a lot of skewed information because it looks as though we're waiving those fees constantly, even though the intention of that was set up for filmmaking.
Yeah, and now that I've learned, and I just learned this today, that was set up for filmmaking, because we had discussed it with the staff and talking about, like a car show and how the cars would be parked on Blair Street for about 12 to 24 hours. And we wouldn't charge them $500 for every 5 hours that they were parked out there. So I think maybe putting that definition back in would really help clarify that.
That sounds good to me too. Cool.
Yeah, good catch.
Do we want to see a revised version of the fee waiver reduction policy, or are we good to approve it subject to those revisions being made?
I'm good with it. I think it's great, but
Okay, do we need a motion then?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the town of Silverton draft discount waiver policy with the revisions that were clarified this evening for a state and or federal nonprofit status and the filmmaking process being added into the street right-of-way closure.
I can second.
Is that too specific?
Well, I thought we were gonna do that and then or
I think we were just
higher the intent.
No, just to only address the state federal nonprofit status, but to also say like, I don't know, it just sounded like the nonprofit definition needed some tweaking. We didn't necessarily know what all of that exactly was going to be and that you were going to look into it.
Oh, and I had thought that the state federal nonprofit status would be a good definition there, because then we could have different ways to get that information.
Great. So I just want to
not restrict it.
So yeah, so you can say we have that or that, or, and then what you already have written. It seems like it might make it easier on the onset of them to just be like, oh, well, here's this. So you can just say yes. And then if not, you can be like, well, you don't have it, but then you also fit these other definitions. So you're fine. Like you said, you didn't want to pigeonhole anybody into, because like the ski team, for instance. So I don't.
Okay, I'm going to withdraw my motion and remake it. So it's clarified. I'd like to make a motion to accept the town of Silverton draft fee discount waiver policy with the revised edition of film for the public right-of-way closure, and as to Gloria's or the admin's, what do we want to call that? Her ability to rewrite the section in definitions based on our discussion this evening.
Thank you, Molly.
I can second that.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Varela,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Uyghur,
Yes.
trustee Beerma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. And would it be possible for us to add the final version into the packet for whatever meeting follows? this being finalized?
Yes.
Cool. All right, new business item 4F, the MOU for Chaffa. This is not on the agenda. This was added at the beginning of the meeting.
So thank you for adding this. The town has been awarded the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority's Small Scale Housing Technical Assistance Grant for the rendering and cost estimates to build out Anvil. So there's five plats there that we're looking to build out. I have emailed you all the MOU, memorandum of understanding to approve so that we can continue with the project. The consultants were very aware of our timeframe that we wanted this done by February so we can apply for our Department of Housing grant. So they're actually going to come out here November 16th next week to do their first site visit. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, this is excellent.
Awesome. Any trustee questions or discussion? Right here, a motion.
It's so exciting. I'm just, yeah, this is great news. Good work. Let's see. I was gonna make a motion, but then I realized it's not really on the agenda.
I can make a motion to approve the program participation agreement with Chaffa Small Scale Housing Technical Assistance Program.
Nice. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yeah.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Awesome. That's great. I want to note that I believe that Pete's here to speak about ski drawing. Did we want to ask Pete to wait until the public comment at the end? He just barely missed the item on the agenda. Do we want to revisit that before we move on to the consent agenda? So we don't
I'd
have
like to hear.
cool.
Yeah.
So you don't have to wait till the very end of the meeting.
Yeah.
You know, my apologies, I'm late. So I'm late to the whole ski Jordan thing. I was just interested because it's, you know, obviously I had skin in the game and I just want to see where ski Jordan was progressing. So I was late, so I don't want to hold you guys up. Maybe I'll catch up with you, find out where it's at. I just got an email that said Karen was no longer going to be in charge of it. So I just want to see, I just don't want the event to die. That's my public comment.
Totally.
And if there's anything I can do as a resource to help it not die, I'm here.
Awesome, thank you. I won't recap the whole discussion right now, but we tabled any decision relating to the request for an additional $5,000 until the next meeting in 2 weeks. And so we'll have another presentation and discussion in 2 weeks at that meeting.
Excellent. So I can show up to that.
Yeah. And we're all receiving a kind of a preview copy of the film that was made before that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, so we'll move on to approval of consent agenda items. Is there anything that we need to pull out for discussion?
Nothing for me.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
Trustee Bearman,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right, moving along to staff reports.
Right, so just a reminder that we'll be closed in observance of Veterans Day on Thursday, November 11th. Let's see, what else is going on? Director Sites has added an update to school parking in a staff report in your packet highlighted, highlighting the progress on ordering the signs and researching the traffic studies. Lisa is back from vacation and Bill went on vacation. So this is a great time to give the staff kind of their well-needed break. I wanted to introduce Matt Green, our new town clerk treasurer. He's in training now until Kelly will leave us on December 17th. So wanted to update you with that. I also wanted to update, I didn't put it in my packet, but I met with a group of leaders in the community and Jordan was there as well, on how to best approach the Southern Ute Mountain Ute to implement the landing agreement. So we are working through Nancy Brockman, who used to work for the two tribes, and coming up with kind of a comprehensive kind of townwide plan on how we can help incorporate them into either our museum or literature, like however we can do that. So great, that is in progress.
Great. Do any trustees have any questions or comments on the staff reports included in our packet?
No.
Well, I had one for Todd, but I was told he's on vacation, so I can wait to ask him at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Yes, he is on vacation tonight.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Trustee reports.
Yeah, I can start. I had a meeting over the phone with Megan Fennessy, the organizer of the Dirty 30, about filling out the application and the event request. And I know that we're working on that right now to clean that up and sort of streamline that to make sure that there's no confusion. And then as part of that, I'll be working in my other position to maybe make a template that the town can include in that packet for what they need to show for necessary EMS or medical designs for their program. So because I know that they're supposed to bring that event in and have it all signed already by OEM, fire department, EMS, et cetera. But the current application, it really is left open to interpretation for like what they may need. And then we're supposed to approve it based on a plan they give us, but they don't really know what the plan needs to be. So based on the conversation with her and so there was some frustration on the packet, the packet they get currently and how they need to fill it out and in what order. So I know Gloria is working on that on the town side, and then hopefully I can help clean that up from the EMS director side. So.
Great. I'd like to congratulate all the school board the board electees that were elected on November 2nd. And also to thank everybody that ran for those positions. It's cool to see a large number of people running for these volunteer positions. So thank you to the community for all of that, and congratulations to those who were elected. All right, moving on to continued business. First item we have is 8A, funding nonprofit 2022 budget requests.
All right, so this is the final series in our budget requests, following up our discussions on nonprofit budget requests. There's room to fund all of the requests. I sent you all Silverton single tracks budget this morning for your reference. This year we have sales tax to support these organizations. Next year we might not have as much sales tax, but at least we've put a process in place now that can be utilized next year. and maybe refined a little.
Yeah.
Molly?
Okay, so my question is, did the San Juan County give the Single Track Society any additional funding in that last meeting? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Wait, could you repeat your question, Molly? I think the first part of it.
The county,
Oh, if the county did, okay.
Yeah, because I was under the impression that the county denied additional funding to the Single Track Society at the moment. So I could be incorrect, though. So if we are just looking according to what that says, that they're looking for ways to be able to get the matching grant, 25% money not spent because they're looking for it for matching grant. So the town of Silverton has already put in 25,000, and the town, let's see, the county put in 11, and then they raised the rest. So we're only looking at what, potentially 50,000 they need for their matching grant funds. Is that correct?
62.5.
Okay, there you go. 62.5. So it looks like they already have that well in hand. So I just think that it needs to be shown. I like Gloria attached the fact that it needs to be used in 2022 if we're going to fund anything additional, because that will be $35,000 from the town of Silverton. And it's kind of like ski joring. Show me the product for it. I guess that's what I really want to see, and that's why I have an issue. I'm so glad that Kimmy Grant got us that wonderfully well put together budget and estimate in a previous packet. Thank you, Kim. And I am all on board for the farmers market.
Is there anyone from Single Track Society on as an attendee that we could ask some questions
Well,
to?
and Clem sent us the email today too, that we received from via Gloria on matching funds from the town and like the timing of spending funds.
Yeah,
And I don't know if the same situation exists for the county as well. But on this subject, I wondered if it might be, this does not relate to approving this funding at all, but just to follow up with Molly, would this be a moment where the town board of trustees could draft a letter urging the county to support the funding of Single Track Society, or indicate our level of support and somehow communicate and just try to work more collaboratively with the county in this way?
Jess?
I may be looking at it incorrectly, but I believe that San Juan County has $30,000 pending. If you look right underneath the second highlighted in their budget there. Yeah.
And they were actually denied that. Lisa just let me know that they were denied their funding.
Did they say why?
From the county?
Yes, so the county denied a request for additional funding from Single Track Society. They were asking for 30,000.
And I see Lisa's still an attendee. Is there any explanation by the county of what the conversation that led to the rejection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa Branner.
Lisa, yeah.
I attended the county commissioner meeting on October 27th. And I believe that the Single Track Society was asking for 30,000 from the town and 30,000 from the county. And I believe the county basically said that they had previously provided funding if that they didn't feel like they had money in the 2022 budget to approve that request.
Hi, Carm.
Hi.
So I guess we were curious to hear a little bit more context around the discussion with the county.
Yeah. So the county's response was essentially that they are very strapped in their budget this year, and cash is going to be hard, but we should try to work on in-kind donations and another contribution that would kind of like be a pass-through that I'm not quite sure I fully understand.
Okay. And I think also to one of the points that Molly brought up, when looking at the budget, do you, and combining that with the email that we saw where you said that you applied for a $250,000 or the Single Track Society applied for a $250,000 grant, requires 25% matching, which is $62,500. Does the Single Track Society currently have $62,500 in cash to provide that matching, or is the bank account greater than that amount?
I think we're kind of in that neighborhood right now. I don't have it right in front of me, but if we get that grant, yes. But that grant is for a chunk of it. We still need to raise the entire 1.5 million. And so 250 isn't going to get us there. So the other grant that we're applying for is the GOCO grant for 750,000. So the exact amount that we're going to need for matching funds in the long run is probably going to exceed what we have in cash right now.
And something I think I asked at the last meeting is, if we didn't approve a cash, or if we didn't provide the Single Track Society with this cash today, but we did approve like a contingent budget line item that said, if you get the grant approved, we will supply X amount of cash, would that in any way be detrimental to the process or keep you from being eligible for certain grants?
Oh, I think that'd probably be fine. There's no point in us having the money sitting in our bank account. We're not doing anything with it. We're just getting ready to be able to match the grants once we get them. And if we just can say that that money is committed and it's as good as sitting in our bank account, but technically not there, I think that'd be fine with us.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but if we were to consider additional contributions to Single Track Society, I'd feel a lot better about saying the town will commit to do it, but not necessarily write the check contingent on receiving the grant. Because that way, if they don't receive the grant, we still have the money. It's not just sitting in a bank account.
Yeah.
And you still have the use of the funding to apply for the grants to leverage the money in that way. So it seems like it works both ways.
And to also maybe write the letter urging the county to provide what they can, or to committing to a certain dollar amount of in-kind donations. And I'm not sure if that would be eligible as a grant match as well. Molly?
So I like this direction. And I do believe the county gave the Single Track Society 5,000 in-kind donations for this upcoming year, is what I understand from the budget. So I like this. We'll put the intent in there without having to write the check, because I do think this all needs to start getting leveraged here soon. And we need to make sure that that grant money does come in.
One clarification, that 5,000, that was not part of this recent ask. They had already committed that in the past. So we will hopefully get additional in-kind contributions from that.
Okay, because in your, on sheet 2, it says received and or pledged, San Juan County, 3,500. And so I know that the county approved 5,000. So I was just going off the numbers that you have written.
Sheet 2.
It's the first tab in the spreadsheet.
Oh, sorry. I just have a piece of paper in front of me. I wasn't.
So in the first,
I don't have access to that right at this moment. I'm on Lisa's computer.
Okay.
Either way, I like the idea of committing to it based on their receival of or approval of the grant. And also urging the county to support what they can. So.
Yeah, and maybe if it came in at a number under the $30,000, if there's some way to compromise there or have some sort of, you know, and if it's not $30,000 out of this budget, it's, you know, looking at the long-term investment scale or something like that, or somehow for us, I would really encourage us to consider a communication between the town and the county on this, just because I think Shane brought this up in the last meeting, and I think it's really significant to say that there is so much momentum behind the project. It has been years of, you know, effort and work, and the numbers are significant. And so, and it is, I also think that without a lot of funding, trails are expensive. And so we aren't actually going to see any return until we get to a certain level of funding, is my understanding. And so I think to continue the momentum, we need to start to see we all want to see some action on the trails over there. So it would just be a real bummer to kind of get stuck for, you know, for lack of, I don't know, coordination or trying to dig deep and just figure it out and work together on it. So I think trying to communicate with the county and see like if there's any wiggle room there or some sort of
Yeah, can we maybe
conditional, you know, approval like that they do, you know, the way that we're sort of approaching it, if they would take the same approach, maybe that would work.
or if we said, you know, offered a percentage, maybe even if they can get this grant and this is the money they need, you know, we can give this much and the county can maybe give the rest of it for that match for the grant.
Yeah, I would note that I feel like, and you know way more than I do, and Willie knows exponentially more as well, but the county budget versus the town budget, they're at a very different position than we're in right now. Our sales tax numbers have skyrocketed, and so we have a lot more income than we're used to having. Although we're seeing a lot of development, real estate tax dollars, to my knowledge, haven't increased tremendously, and that's the primary source of the county's income. And so even though we have this excess to be allocating, the county is just on its regular same kind of budget trajectory. And so I also want to be cognizant of whatever financial strain the county's feeling, and us not like writing a letter saying, what are you guys doing? Like, you need to support this too, because we are, but you know, we just happen to have a little excess right now.
Well, and based on that, you know, and whatever the percentages are, not 50-50, but say, you know, we could cover 70% of this. If you guys could cover the 30, we know we're in a better position. We pay maybe a little more, but seeing your continued commitment helps us move forward.
Sure. Yeah. Let's be diplomatic about it and rational. I'm not suggesting that we go burning any doors down or anything. I just like looking at the entire scope with a somewhat creative and, you know, interwoven approach is what I'd like to see us try for.
I had two other quick questions for Clem. The first one, Clem, is the GoCo grant for $750,000 also a matching grant?
It is, no, it is not.
Okay. And the second question I had is, do any of these grant applications have components of showing support, and is there value in getting a letter of support from the town and the county, or a joint letter of support from the town and the county, or have we already done that could be included in these grant applications?
Yes, there's definitely value in that, and you have already done that, and so has the county, school, chamber, BLM. So yeah, those letters are definitely very valuable, and that's, I mean, frankly, that is really what this exercise is all about, is showing support. You know, if you guys don't mind for a second, like, I want to remind you that this is an investment in a $1.5 million asset that you're going to have forever. And so $10,000, you know, it's less than 1% of that. It's, I don't want to say that it's a symbolic thing, but in the big scheme of things, this thing is going to be a lot of money. And the most important thing is the support. So it's not so much important whether it's necessarily the county gives us a lot of cash or they give us however much in kind. It's really more just a show of support. And I think it's good that you brought up that the county maybe is in a different financial position that you guys are right now. They did say exactly what I predicted last time when I spoke to you guys, that you're going to get more of the sales tax. So why are they paying for this thing? But for us, it's really more a matter of just having the support of the town and county and you guys committing to trying to help us with the resources to make it happen.
Cool. Thank you. Molly?
So once again, we're back into that position. The town has already donated 25,000 into the single track society, and they're asking for an additional 10. And this is what I said last meeting when we were discussing this, is that you're going to try to chip it away, $1.5 million, 10,000 at a time. And that was kind of my point, is what you're saying. Well, it's only $10,000, but it's $10,000 every year. The town is showing its support and the county are showing their support. So that's why I said this stuff needs to start becoming something, and you need to start leveraging the money that's already been given. According to the information that you provided, it looks like in cash, Single Track Society has at least almost $82,000 that's in cash rather than in kind. So there is a lot going on there, and there is a lot to be leveraged with what's already there. So I like the intent letter that if you actually do get the grant, and the 62,000 is above and beyond for the next set of grants, then we're actually moving in the right direction at that point.
Okay, fair enough. What we've been doing is working towards the point where we can actually apply for this, and we haven't been eligible until just in the last maybe month or so to actually apply for these grants, because we needed to have a lot of other things happen first. It's not just having the permission from the BLM. We also needed to get the other clearances, and these grant cycles are annual. So now is our opportunity to start applying for them, and we are moving on them as fast as we can. We've got, I guess, $1 million in grant applications in the works right now. So that's where we're at.
Cool. Well, I would be comfortable approving this request with the funding contingent on receiving the grant and these funds being used specifically for that matching.
Yeah, I would support that.
Agreed.
I support that.
Does that work for you, Clem, and the Single Track Society?
Yep, absolutely. That's great.
Cool. Because I'd hate to approve something and then be like, well, that's helpful. Okay, great.
I want to say that I'm just making the assumption that that would be okay for the grants. But I feel pretty good about that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I've written a lot of state grant work, and as long as you can say that we have a commitment for the match, that you don't have to necessarily show it on your books when you're applying for it. We've always done that at the EMS, and we've received the grants. So I feel like that probably should work for other state grants.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Well, we're not just making a motion on single track, right? We're gonna
right.
back out and make a motion on the entire funding of the nonprofit.
Right. So far, Molly kind of ran through all of them, said she felt comfortable with everyone, or each of the different line items. Did anyone else have discussion or questions or concern on other line items? So then I guess the motion we'd be making is to approve the funding nonprofit 2022 budget request with the caveat that the Single Track Society's request is being funded contingent on receiving the grant and the funds being used for that specific grant.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody good? Okay, cool. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Uyghur?
Yes.
Trustee Veerma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. Great. All right, final item Continued business 8B, memo regarding time for filing petitions.
Great, so Lane is here today. She helped drop off a whole bunch of documents for us that get passed around from attorney to attorney. So she is here to clarify the timeframes that citizens may file to repeat ballot initiatives.
And I think at the last meeting, Sally, you had asked me to kind of provide some information about whether there's any stability for these initiative petitions for the citizens. And I had said that I thought there was a time frame, and I thought it was a year. I was wrong though. So there is no time frame, and I apologize for that mistake. Repeat initiatives are able to be filed right after an election. Obviously, there's the timeframes that you have to set an election for, that sort of thing, but yeah, they can be filed. The timeframe actually comes from recall petitions. So recall petitions can't be filed if you're 6 months away from the end of your term. If you already had a recall petition filed within that term, then that second recall petition has to have 50% of the registered electors' signatures. So it's no longer 25%, it's 50%. But in theory, that's fairly difficult, obviously, because 50% means you probably would have gotten recalled. So I've never heard of it being done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for writing this.
Sure.
All right. Anything else on that, trustees? Okay, then we move to our closing public comment. We'll start with in-person, which we have none. So going to Zoom, if you'd like to make a comment, please click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. All right, seeing none, we will close public comment. We have a bunch of meetings coming up. We have a personnel and ordinance committee tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. There's a Kendall meeting on November 18th at 6 p.m. and a finance committee meeting on November 22nd at 9 a.m. And then our next regular meetings on November 22nd at 7 p.m. It is 8:40 p.m. I adjourn this meeting. Have a great night, everybody. Molly, did you have something?
I thought we were moving one of our finance committee. What meeting were we moving, Gloria? We had a meeting that we were moving.
Yeah, our finance meeting has been moved to the 22nd. It's on there correctly.
Oh,